Hi, welcome to another episode of I Can Alteryx That with coaches Alex and John. I'm John. Today, we're going to cover Alteryx Weekly Challenge number 216, The Big Five. Let's get started. Okay, so we've got an interesting challenge this week. We're looking at the Big Five personality traits, which apparently are extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, and openness. And our goal this week in this week's challenge is to take this data set of user responses, where every row represents a different user's set of responses on these questions. And we want to give them a total score for those 5 personality traits. So in the instructions, we're told that each user rated themselves on a scale of 1 to 5 over 50 questions in those 5 personality factors. So we can see here we have like EXT, which corresponds with extroversion, EXT 1 through 10, EST, I'm not sure what EST goes with. Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. We have our set of questions, and then over here, we've got a bunch of columns starting at EXT1_E, where we've got like a 4-digit number. I have no clue what that actually means. So we're just going to deselect everything from EXT1_E onwards. Oh, and before I get too ahead of myself, we have these questions, and you can see every column has this code, this 3-letter abbreviation with a number. In our question code lookup table, we have those very codes with the actual question that was asked. And in our personality factor questions, we have only one field, where we have the extroversion factor, what I'll call the direction, positive or negative, and then the questions. So you can see here these are the 5 positive extroversion questions, and these are the 5 negative extroversion questions. So I think the most difficult part of this challenge will be parsing out this data set. So the first thing that I want to do is, like we just said, I'm going to use a select tool. And I'm just going to deselect everything from here on down to the end. They're not necessary for this challenge, so we should get rid of them right away. I'm going to drop a record ID because we don't have an ID field in there. So I think that will be necessary. And then I'm going to transpose. So we're going to group by record ID, and our data columns will be everything else. So if we go ahead and run this, we'll now have 3 columns, 1 for record ID, 1 for the name, and then 1 for the value of that person's response. So now let's go back down here to the personality factor questions. What I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to grab a formula tool, and I'm going to make 3 columns. 1 for the factor, 1 for the direction, and 1 for the question. So all I'm going to do is say if field 1 contains the word factor, then I'm going to return field 1. Otherwise, null. Oh man. You can see right there, it's going to return only the factor headers, so to speak. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing for field I'll call direction. And I'll say if field 1 contains the word positive. And the only difference between here and the factor field, is I'm going to do this a second time. So, or it contains the word negative. And I'll just call this direction, field 1, else null. Let's go ahead and run that just to make sure I didn't mess up. And we can see right here we have factor and we have direction. And finally, I'm going to do something a little different, and I'll call this question. Now I'm going to say if is null factor and is null direction, then return field 1, else null and if. So by doing that, you can see we've now split out the questions from the factors and their directions. one more thing that I need to do is I'm going to use a multi-row formula to pull down these extroversion factor, the factors and the directions, so that we don't have any nulls in here. So let's go back to prep, grab a multi-row formula, update existing field, we'll update factor. We'll say if is null. So if the current row of factor is null, then I want to return the previous row's factor. Otherwise, I want to return the current row factor. So basically what this is saying is when factor was null, like this cell right here was null, I'm saying return the previous row's factor. If it's not null, then just keep it alone. Here, leave it the same. And by doing that, you can see that where agreeableness factor was there, we have it there. And we've pulled down extroversion factor for all the other records. And I'm going to do the exact same process for the direction field. All I have to do is replace the word factor with the word direction. And this is probably not the most elegant solution. I'm sure that if I sat and thought about it, I could come up with something better. But this is the first thing that's coming to my mind, and I think it's going to work. And frankly, that's all that really matters here, is that it works. It doesn't need to be pretty. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to join this question code lookup table on the question with the question field here. Although I just noticed something a little interesting. Look at this one right here. Am the life of the party. But here, I am the life of the party. It looks like all of these questions start with I and then something else. Yeah, every single one of these starts with I and then the question. But here, none of them have I. They're all just am the life of the party. Feel comfortable. Start conversations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up a bit to the question here, and I'm going to, make this lowercase. And then I'm going to concatenate an I space to every single one of those. And I think that will, I don't care about those, but you see here we now have I am the life of the party. I feel comfortable around people. And that should match with the questions here. Fingers crossed that that works like I wanted to. So join question on question, and hopefully we have all of the points that we need. Oh, we had 50 here and we have 50 there, so that's good. Notice that we had 65 records here, but a lot of that is the junk stuff that we don't really care about, that I just didn't get rid of because, frankly, it wasn't necessary. But it looks like everything joined together correctly. And the real reason that we did all of this was so that we could tie a positive or negative score to everything. Because if a question is negative, we're actually going to give this value a negative value. So just, for example, if ext1 is a negative question, we want this 4 to be a negative 4. So that's really the whole purpose of everything we just did. So now we have, for every question, we have the direction tied to it, and it looks like some have trailing spaces. We probably don't have to worry about that. But now we have our codes, and we have our directions. So now we can join that with this data set. So let's grab another join. And I'm going to join the name field here with the code down here. And I'm going to deselect all this other stuff. We don't need the duplicate code. We don't need the question, any of this stuff. I'll keep factor, and I'll keep direction. All right, perfect. And you see here we had 4,950 records. And here we have 4,950 records. So I think we're in good shape. So what I'm going to do now is, I don't like that. Let's just grab a data cleansing just in case and get rid of those leading and trailing white spaces. It's not going to hurt anything. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab a formula tool, and we're going to reevaluate value. And actually, I'm going to reassign value. You see it's a string, so in that join, I'm going to give value an integer type, because we're going to need that. So what I'm going to say is, I'll create a column called score, and I'll say if direction equals negative, then -1 times value, else value. Make sure you give that a numeric field type. So you can see now we have our scores. So what I'm going to do is we want to get the total score for each user for each factor. So we will grab a summarize tool, group by record ID and factor, and sum score. And that'll take us back down to each user times each factor. So 99 times 5 is 495, which is the number of records we have. And you can see we now have a score for each user for each factor. Next, I'm going to crosstab, because remember the output that we want is 1 record per user, and each column is one of the different 5 factors. So we'll grab a crosstab. We will group by record ID. Our column headers will be factor, values will be sum, and we're going to sum these again. Run that. We're back down to 99 records. 1 record per user, and then each column is our factors. So now the last thing that we need to do is look up here. Your job is to give each user blah, blah, blah. Additionally, each user's final score should be adjusted as follows. So extroversion, so you can see record 1, we have an extroversion factor of 16. But we're going to add 20 to their score. For agreeableness, we're going to add 14. For conscientiousness, we're going to add 14. For neuroticism, we're going to take the number 38, and we're going to subtract the score from that. Openness, we're going to add 8. So what I'm going to do here, let's grab another formula tool, and I'm just going to adjust them all just like that. Agreeableness will be 14 plus agreeableness. Conscientiousness is 14 plus that. Extroversion is 20 plus that. Neuroticism was 38 minus. And openness is 8 plus the score that they achieved. So then we'll do all that. And one last thing I want to do is just rename everything so it fits. So we got extroversion, agreeableness, conscientious, neuroticism, openness. All lowercase in that order. So this will be user. I think extroversion was next. Then we had agreeableness. That's a hard word to spell. I think I got it. Neuroticism and openness. And when I run this, hopefully it matches the answer. I don't see any differences. I really like that when you scroll in a browse tool and then click between browse tools that you're in the exact same location. Like here I scrolled to record 41 and this one's automatically in record 41. If I scroll it down to 65, this one's automatically in 65. And you can see all of our scores appear to be matching, so I think we have an answer there. Again, was that the most elegant solution? Probably not. Does it matter? Absolutely not, because we got the right answer at the end. Our workflow performed quickly. I mean, it ran in, half a second, and we got the right answer, which is all that really matters in the end. But in any case, there is my answer to Alteryx Weekly Challenge number 216. Thanks for watching. As always, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Data Coach channel for more awesome lessons on Alteryx and all things data analytics and visualization. Follow Data Coach on Twitter at AskTessellation and follow me personally at jemery_dataviz. Thanks again.